Hello, and welcome to today's European SharePoint Office 365 and Azure Community webinar. My name is Laura, and I am delighted to be joined by Tiago Costa, who is an MVP, an MCT, and an independent contractor from Portugal. And Tiago will present the topic, Maximizing Productivity with Azure, a guide for developers and IT professionals. Remember to join in on the conversation about today's webinar and more on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is #ESPC23. Don't forget to check out the Resource Centre. This is updated daily with the latest blogs, eBooks, webinars, how-to videos, and more. Simply visit sharepointeurope.com and click the Content tab at the top. Continue your learning with us by joining us for our next webinar, How Conversational AI Can Transform Your Work with ChatGPT with Vesa Nopanen. This webinar takes place next Wednesday, the 5th of April from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. CEST. For full details, please check out sharepointeurope.com/register for webinars. The ESPC23 Super Early Bird Sale is now on. Save €400 with Super Early Bird pricing and join us in Amsterdam this year from the 27th to the 30th of November for 4 days of learning, networking and inspiration. ESPC23 brings together members of the Microsoft 365 and Azure community from around the world to share ideas and solutions. Surround yourself with the like-minded individuals at ESPC this November. Secure your Super Early Bird tickets today and get ready for 4 incredible days of Microsoft 365 and Azure learning. You can find out more at sharepointeurope.com/pricing. The European Power Platform Conference programme is now also available. This June, prepare yourself to deep dive into all things Power Pages, Dataverse, Canvas apps, PowerFX, Fusion Teams, and so much more, with a lineup of exceptional speakers and topics curated by an independent program team. We truly believe this program will provide you with the expertise to power ahead in your career and projects. Be sure to visit sharepointeurope.com/conference schedule 2023 EPPC to find out more about the conference schedule. So after the webinar, we will have a questions and answers session. You can type any question that you might have into the questions window. Questions will then be selected and answered at the end of the presentation. This webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Centre, where you will be notified by email when the recording is available. And now I'm going to pass you over to our webinar presenter today, Tiago. Hello, Tiago.
Yeah, hello, good morning, or just a good afternoon from where you're joining, or really good morning if you're joining from overseas. So we are here for the Maximizing Productivity with Azure, a guide for developers and IT professionals. Just making sure, can you see my screen?
No, we can't see anything there.
Let me just see right now.
Yeah, that's perfect. We could see your presentation.
Yeah, okay, cool, awesome. So let's just get started. Okay, and I always like to get started in my presentations with just kind of a small icebreaker. And what I bring here today is just this. If having coffee in the morning, just doesn't work for you anymore, just to wake you up, try this. Try to delete a production resource group, because to be totally honest with you, if this doesn't work, I honestly just don't know what will work for you anymore. Okay, because and yes, this already happened, okay, to one of my customers, and yeah, it works. It really wakes you up. So just doing a short presentation about myself. My name is Tiago. I work as a cloud architect and advisor. I also train people in Azure. I author certain content for Azure. You can find me on some course platforms. And I'm also a speaker, so I usually speak in conferences that range from the big Microsoft official conferences to the big conferences like ESPC, and you can just find me there. Also in the local meetup, which is a little bit more intimate, presentation, usually just a couple of people, 10, 20 people, but it's different. It's also nice to do, to be honest. I've been working with Azure since really, really a long time, I have to say, for your fortune to start working in Azure like in the very, very early days and see the evolution for what we have today. And I'm based in Lisbon, Portugal. So, and you can find me, you have my contacts here if you just want to reach out. Just be free to do it. Before I get started, I just want to do like a very short, a very short poll here. And I just have this here ready. And I know there is always here, some latency when I'm speaking and you are hearing it. But basically, I just wanted to know here, where are you from? And then there is another question, which is about your experience, okay, that you have with Azure already, so that I can kind of know you more. So I will just leave this here, okay, and I will just put this in my other screen, and then I can just get back to this. But we're already getting here some answers here. Oh, you have someone from Portugal too. Okay, that's nice to see. Paris. Okay, Austria. Okay, yeah. Norway. Wow, Norway is one of my favorite countries, I have to say. Oh, the Netherlands. Very good, very good. What we have more? Yeah, I think Austria is in here in big highlight here. Okay, cool. So nice to see so many different nationalities. Germany, Austria, Netherlands, Denmark too. Okay, cool. Well, Denmark was when we had the last ESPC. That was nice. Okay, cool. So what's the next? What is the next question is about, just what is your experience with Azure? So just, if you don't have experience, or if you have already some experience of, yeah, 0 to 2, I think it's it's earning that one. It's pretty common, to be honest. That's my expectations too. Okay, so no experience. We have one person with no experience. Okay, cool. So keep those numbers coming. I will just leave this here, okay, running here in my other screen so that I can, kind of monitor this. But let's just get started, and let's just see here, what is the agenda today. So the agenda is just all about a little bit what is the cloud today. Um, then just, a little bit of Microsoft 365 and Azure and how they work together. And then one of my favorite parts of this presentation, which is the part of the tooling. And I'm just going to do demos about, what kind of tooling do I use, so that, you can, of course, maximize this. And then, yeah, I needed to bring here some very cool services that I really think that, sometimes can really make a huge difference, um, both for developers and for IT pros. So I tried to create a presentation that fits both, which is basically app services, functions, and Key Vault, and the integrations that we can have with all of those. And then, of course, just a reference to other useful Azure services. And I really, that I have to confess, that was the hardest part of this presentation for me to build, because I was like, oh yeah, I can put this one and that one and that one, and then I had like 50 something services on a list, and I was like, well, definitely I can't show 50 something services in a presentation. So, that was a little bit hard for me to decide which ones to show. It's never perfect, okay, but that was kind of my, uh, let's just say, top 8 services. So let's just go here. Let's talk about what is the cloud today and Azure today, more specifically. Uh, Second largest cloud provider, a bunch of regions worldwide. Doesn't matter the number, to be honest. I think the number starts to be a little bit irrelevant. Also, lots of fiber and subsea cable, and a lot of edge sites. Why I say that the number of regions is something that we just don't care about anymore, to be honest. Sometimes what matters is, when I'm working for a customer, if you have some data residency concerns, What matters is one of those regions, whatever the number is, it's within your country, so that you are fulfilling the best policies in terms of you can apply to some regulation from that specific country. If you're working in another customer in another country, well, they also need to have a region probably there. It's not exactly always like this. There is cases of basically cases of deployments that we do that we can have stuff whatever we want because it's not important data. So there's no regulation around that data, but sometimes there is. So it is really important to find that region within that political geographical place. Then we also have 200 gigabits, which is basically saying that I can create using a service called Azure Express Route, a dedicated connection, so a private connection from your headquarters, for example, into the Azure network. So you're not using the internet to connect to the public cloud. This, of course, is 200 gigabits. As you can imagine, it's not cheap for sure, but it's a huge bandwidth that you can have, nowadays. So let's go and let's talk about jump here and let's talk about tooling. Okay. And before I go on tooling, let me just, go straight here, change here my screen, and then let me go and let me just start to do here a demo. Of course, look, this is the Azure portal, already had it here. I think everyone understands, yeah, the portal is great. We can come here, we can click, 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 and something happens, right? We can just create something. So let me just, so that we take that out of the way here, let me create here a storage account. For example, I could have creating something else, okay? So I can just go to create a resource, right? This is the marketplace. And I can just go in here, just search for the service that I want. And my example is just a storage account. And I can just go here, sorry, there's one more step. I need to select here on the search results, the one that I want. And now, look, I just need to create that resource. In our case, it's a storage account. We fill in this form, right? And something will happen. That's great for one shot. If we have scenarios where we need to, create this over and over and over, probably, or most probably, this is not a great idea. So we need to automate things. So now the big question is, how, can you automate things? Well, I can automate things by, for example, writing scripts. And let me just open here, for example, my WSL, and I can just go here on my Linux Windows subsystem, and I can just log in on this, right? So just doing easy login, and I can just do what I was doing on the other side. Let me just show you there. Sorry, there's this. I need to authenticate with my demo account. So it seems to be all okay. This usually always takes some extra time for me because I have several tenants where this account has access to. So let's just wait for that to come. Come on, there you go. And now you can just type stuff like, hey, z group list. This will list all the resource groups. Or you can say, dash dash output with table, or you can even use the short notation, just one dash and the letter O. Sorry, I need to say what I want to do. So list is missing here. And, and I can create here AZ group create dash dash name, like AZ demo 1 to 3, and then dash dash location, and, just put something in here. As you can imagine, look, and I could do a storage account too, like AZ storage account, create dash dash name, like st some numbers to make it unique, dash dash resource group. Let's just put this AZ demo 1 to 3, and for example, a location. I could even put the SKU and a bunch of other stuff more. Europe seems to be all right, and and this it will just just create a storage account. Well, let's be honest. Am I really going to work building scripts using the terminal? Of course not. So let's just minimize this. So what I use is basically Visual Studio Code. And let me open here, like for example, this project that I have that has several demos. So it's basically my demo project that I have here. And look what I can do in here. So what I can do is exactly the same thing, but look what I have. I have IntelliSense. Get the idea? So I can just go in here and say, hey Z group, oh, list, yes. And then, just, oh, output, yes. And then, oh, there's JSON, TSV, oh, and a table. And we can do this. I can also open here the terminal here on the bottom. And I don't want to use the, PowerShell. I want to use Ubuntu. So let's just even take this out of the way here. And, I can select this, right click, and you can see it running terminal, the shortcut keyboard, which is what I'm going to do. And this will just go there and it will just run there. And now, because for example, this, what I have here is under Git. So there's a repository. So this is under source control. So if I save this, for example, I can go in here and I can commit this to my repository. Okay, and we'll just do this in just a moment. Okay, so for now, let's just do some more stuff here. So I can just also type here, see, AZ, and let me take this here, group, and look what I have that over there. That was like really quickly just show that. And if I do this, you see create resource group location, and that was just automatic. And see, but it's just suggesting some stuff there. Like let's create a storage account. So storage account, create, and if I do this now, okay, and we'll just write everything for me. And you're like, whoa, what kind of black magic is that, Tiago? Well, that's something that I have here. I don't know if you know what that is, but that's called GitHub Copilot. And even yesterday, there were some news about this. So I have GitHub Copilot. And this is also another tool that I use a lot when I'm writing, scripts in PowerShell or Azure CLI, which is the case that will just write tons of stuff for me, but really a lot, so that I don't have to write all the code myself. And this is, look, I'm not saying that we're going to be replaced by GitHub Copilot, that they don't need us anymore. No, but the thing is, I can be way more performant because, let's be honest, creating a storage account, as you saw, yeah, I know that by heart. But if you ask me to build a script to build something else that, I'm not that engaged on a daily basis to create scripts for that, well, like everyone else, right? I just need to open here the browser and, like, for example, create a storage account Azure. And there's a article on Learn, and you need to go in here, and I'm like, yeah, Azure CLI. Oh, okay, this is how you build. And, copy this, bring it to the other side, adapt, just do that. But right now, I don't need to go there anymore because I can just use GitHub Copilot. The other one that was showing the IntelliSense, it's an extension. It's this extension, Azure CLI. Okay, so just hit your Visual Studio Code with very good extensions. And then you will be able to, just easier build like really cool stuff with this. So this is scripts. This is great. You can also use, by the way, in the Azure portal here on the top. There's also the Cloud Shell. I'm a huge fan of the Cloud Shell, by the way. And you can also use the Cloud Shell to, just run some ad hoc scripts in here. So they are great for that. So you can just write them here and just use them. But again, there are some limitations on this. There's a timeout for the Cloud Shell. So to run big files is probably not the best idea, big scripts. Also, if you want to do like CI/CD with this, again, probably not the best alternative. So just watch out for, other alternatives, which clearly is get your Visual Studio Code, write your stuff here, bring this to some kind of source control. In this case, this is on GitHub, and then using CI/CD tools, basically automate the deployment and the run of this script that we have here. In GitHub, we can use GitHub Actions. In Azure DevOps, we can use Azure Pipelines. And look, there is a bunch of other tools out there that I just don't want to mention because there are so many, to be honest with you. I will always miss some that do similar things with this. There's also another way, which is by using templates, by the way. And for that, look, let's just not save this one here. Let's just go where? Let's go to this. Let's just create here a new file. Okay. And let me just put this name so that I know that I can delete this someday. So imagine that I want to create exactly that same Azure storage account. So what you can do with this is you can just type ARM. This will create basically all the, as you could see here, all the schema of that ARM file. And then I can just get in here. Okay, and now if I want, this by the way is Copilot in the works there, but I don't want this. What I want is create a storage account. I'm just waiting for the loading of my ARM schemas to finish, which now we remember that you needed to do that. So it's just Murphy's Law, when you're doing a presentation is always when this is refreshed. And before our presentation, by the way, I was just changing an ARM template for a customer and he didn't do this. So I was like, oh, great, my presentation will go okay. Oh my God, come on. There you go. So if you type just ARM storage, this just builds here, see? Just basically all the storage account for you. Of course, there's some tweaks here that you need to do. Probably this, you don't need this line here. So you could just delete this, delete the comma. Definitely, I don't want this here hard-coded, the name. So probably could play around with, a parameter, okay, here, or, with a variable. And then, this is called parameter 1. You could just do like brackets and then, parameters. And then you could just say, hey, parameter 1. Whoops, there's something that went here that should not happening. Parameters 1. There you go. Or just use this variable 1 here. Okay, and of course then tweak this, and we're going to get something like this. Let me just get you this, the done version of this. So here, see, there's this name here. I have a variable. That's the variable over there. I'm concatenating this name with, some other stuff. And you can have this. Of course, you might be saying, the more experienced ones of you might be saying right now, hey, that is great, but look, there's bicep Tiago. Yeah, sure. There is bicep, and kind of the same template. You can do it like this with bicep. I'm not here to talk about arm and bicep today. That's a great webinar, by the way, but that's not the idea today. But yeah, build stuff with bicep today. If you want to build something from scratch, that's always my choice. Of course, if we're talking about customers that have tons of ARM templates and you need to maintain them like what I was doing this morning, yeah, that's probably not easy to change, thousands and thousands of ARM templates to bicep. It's not that it's hard, but you know how it is. You need to change it, then you need to deploy them, you need to test them, and all that will take time. But definitely is something that I'm trying to promote with my, along with my customers. But this is more, as you can see here, it's way more visual, way more easier to do. And look, using kind of the same extensions, and I have here an extension for bicep. Okay, using this extension, again, you can also do similar stuff what I just showed you on the over there, okay, on that ARM part. So this is basically kind of some part of my, of my tooling that I have to show. Of course, look, I have a session where I just talk about tooling, and it's just one session about this. But just like I said here, code, Git, Azure DevOps, GitHub, the PowerShell modules, Azure CLI, the terminal, and then we have some other tools that I use a lot, like for example the Storage Explorer when I have to deal with storage accounts and things like that. It's a great tool. This is you just install this on Windows, on a Mac or Linux. You also have Azure Data Studio if you want to interact with databases, like for example SQL databases and things like that. It's a very lightweighted version. It doesn't have all the features like Management Studio has, but it does the trick 90 something percent of the times, to be honest, at least for me. And then we also have Postman. So Postman is like awesome, for um, basically to do like REST calls to services, to do REST calls to the ARM management layer when you're building something that it's still not available through terminal or by Azure CLI or PowerShell. So it's a great mix that we can do with that. But let's move on. What we have here now is just kind of talk about Azure plus other stuff like Microsoft 365. So in Azure, we have Azure subscriptions here on the left, as you can see. And of course, look, we can build loads of things in our Azure subscriptions, lots of resources. And on the other end, we have a SaaS service like Microsoft 365, and let's just say Teams, or like SharePoint, or a bunch of other, things that we have there. That, of course, there is something here on the top that it's what that uses, which is the same authentication and authorization layer, which is Azure AD. And with this, that means that very easily, I can integrate one with the other. So for example, if I do this tons of times, and I have some background also on on SharePoint Online and back in the days, um, and we can do like lots of cool things and lots of integrations, for all those things using the Microsoft Graph, then using Azure AD as the authentication library, and using app services to build applications that can extend functionalities from what we have and data that we already have in Microsoft 365, things like that. We can use Azure Functions to, Azure Functions is basically event driven. So I can connect this like, oh, it's an HTTP trigger or a timer trigger, or even because there is an event in like, even in the Microsoft 365 layer by, building something around this, not directly, but building something around this. So it's really cool stuff that we can do. And of course, not forgetting security. There is always, connection strings. There's always application settings that you might want to store in a secure central way, and then a Key Vault can help you on that. And with this in mind, let's go. And by the way, if you have questions, just shoot up your questions here on the chat. That will be a pleasure to answer to them. What about app service? So app service is basically an HTTP based service. So that means I can use this to host web applications REST services. It's an open platform, which means it doesn't support more than just .NET. It supports, .NET, .NET Core, 6, 7, but also supports a bunch of other languages and frameworks like Python, Go, Java, PHP. Comes with Windows and Linux support, so that means that when we select to create an app service plan, we need to choose, oh, is this app service plan based on what? On Windows, or is this based on Linux? And of course, with this, we get almost the same capabilities, but there are some differences. The major difference is what kind of platforms, okay, can we run there? Because if you go, for example, for Windows, you can use, for example, .NET, the traditional ASP.NET, for example. You can use .NET Core 6, 7, but you cannot use, for example, Python or PHP. If you want to run stuff on Python or PHP, you need to go to Linux. Um, Not that, look, Python doesn't run on Windows, because of course it runs on my machine, but just the app service does not support Python in Windows, the app service team. Um, Integration with development tools like code, like Visual Studio, like even Eclipse, for example. Azure DevOps, GitHub supports custom domains. So it's really, really a cool service that we have with this. But before I just be here talking about this, let's just do here another demo, okay? So let's get back here to my Azure portal. And what I'm going to do very quickly is I'm just going to create here what we call a web app. And yeah, Tiago, if we type that correctly, it helps. So let's create a web app. And when we create here a web application, so what we do is let's just say AZESPC. Okay, so that will be the resource group that I want on that subscription. Now let me give you a name. Let's hope this one is available. It is. The runtime stack, let me choose, for example, .NET 6. And what I'm going to do here is in the region, let me just go to the Netherlands here with West Europe. I could have chosen another one just as a sample. And then, pricing plans. And this is where, I can just choose on this part here. If I have a Windows plan and I'm creating a new one, as you can see there. And of course, what's the price plan for this? Look, I'm not going to bother you with price plans and all of that, but there are different capabilities depending on the price plan. So if we click here, you can see hardware view and feature view on the top. So here on the top. And of course, if you just click on this, you can see the differences. You can see the price differences too. Usually, in terms of my advices for productive workloads, I always go with something like, for example, a premium P1 V2 or something equivalent. Okay, standard S1 as kind of the minimum, to be totally honest with you, because less than this feature-wise, you lose tons of features, especially one feature that I love, which is called auto scaling. Because if we go for something lower than standard, like the basic, for example, which is still dedicated compute, we do not have auto scaling. We also do not have another feature that I love, which is called deployment slots. When with deployment slots, I can deploy my application into a slot and then swap that new slot with the actual production slot, so that this will have, you can just deploy your application with almost no downtime. So that's really cool. And you only have that starting on standard. But yeah, look, in my case, I'll just go with premium. And then here you go. So you see, I can choose .NET 6 or any other languages that I have here, even Ruby. I always forget Ruby. I don't know why. Node.js too. Okay, so you have them all here. And of course, if I go with Linux, there's some stuff that I will lose. We can just have a look. We can just click here, for example, in this case, for example, with Linux, if I try to create like an ASP.NET 4.8, for example, yeah, Linux, it's not supported. If I go for like PHP, Windows is not supported. So, just check that out. In my case, I'll go with .NET 6, and I'll go with Windows, whatever. Just really doesn't matter that much for our demo. And let me go here, premium. Yeah, we can go with PV3, that's fine. So then deployment. So under deployment, you can already, from the portal, integrate this with GitHub Actions. So I could just say, yeah, enable this. I could come here, select the organization that I have here. And in my case, I could go with this. And I could select your repository. Let me just choose your repository that I can choose. And yeah, I have a few. There you go. We can use this one here, which is the official, .NET Core Yellow World. And then, there's more stuff on networking, on monitoring. I'll disable monitoring with application insights, but look, to be totally honest with you, it is a great service, and you should definitely have this up running there, okay? But in my case, I'll just go with this. And right now, this is being, just being validated and being created. And after this, we're going to have, a web application. I'm not going to wait for this. So let's just jump here on slides, and this will just run here in the background. So let's just go and let's talk about what we have created. So I created here an app service plan. That app service plan is, in your subscription, and we can run several web apps in that same app service plan. That app service plan basically is the compute capacity and defines also the features, defines the location where your web apps are going to run, defines the operating system, so all of that. So basically you can have something like this, which is having one app service plan and then having several different web applications, okay? So and all of them running in the same one. There are different tiers for the plans, like I said. Like, I'm not going to bother you to death with this, but there is shared plans. They're very limited. To be totally honest, I only advise this for people that are getting started. They don't want to spend money. So yeah, go with the free, try it, have fun with it. But to be totally honest, if you really even want to run a development environment on this, you need to go to one of the dedicated plans. So you see basic, that's where we have custom domains with SSL, and we can do manual scaling up to 3 instances. Yeah, good for development, why not? That's okay, probably. If you go for standard plans, you get more features. The features that I highlighted definitely is, basically auto scaling here, okay, and deployment slots. And because those are the ones that highlight on all of this. But of course, you also have others like backups. You can integrate this with Traffic Manager, front door, things like that. If we talk about premium, we get 50 backups a day. We get up to 20 instances or up to 30 if we go on the V2, V3. So more capacity, basically. But and then a little bit feature-wise, not that many more features, to be honest. It's just more deployment slots too. We can go up to 20, but we still have custom domains, we still have SSL. So yeah, feature-wise, we get some more numbers, bigger numbers here, but not that much more features by itself. And then we have another very special one, which is the isolated tier, also known as app service environments. And this one's here, they can go up to more instances, even up to 100, which is great. But the biggest feature that we have with this that leads more and more people to go for this definitely is the VNet isolation. So what that means is you can define in which VNet this is running, and you can define this to be just private. So there's no internet connectivity into your app service plan. And then all the web apps that you run here, they do not have internet, at least inbound internet connectivity, or they have. It's a choice that you have, but you can define that no, they are not going to have connectivity. So with this, let's just go back to our demo. This is already deployed. So let's go to the resource. And when we get to the resource that we have here, what we have, what we have here. Let's just click browse and let's see what we have here. So as you can see, there's already an app here. So this is not the landing page, the traditional landing page that we usually have. It's just this, the site. Okay, sorry to disappointing you. It's not a fancy website for sure, but it's here, it's deployed. We can go to the deployment center here under deployment, see over there. And when you click there, we can see that there is the deployment here. So we don't even need to go to GitHub Actions and check this from there. You can just check it from here. When this opens, oh my, this is slow today. That's not good. Yes, come on. Let's click somewhere else. Let's click here again. There you go. Sometimes, that helps a lot. So we can see here, that this was deployed with success. And if we click on the link, this goes straight to GitHub. And you can see here, yeah, it was deployed with success. All of that. This is a repo that I have on GitHub that has, basically that piece of code there. Cool. So cool stuff that we have there. So what we can do more with app services. Sorry. There is one thing that I love, which is the configuration part of this, and where very easily you can create application settings and connection strings that they will override the ones that probably you have on code, okay, like on a file, like a web config or something like that. Like for example, let's just say search, radius. Let's just say that we have something to, search, and I want this to do 20 kilometers, and we can just do this, just easily change, this in here. So this is great, but sometimes imagine that what I have is an API key, and then we put here the API key, and this API key is a really important thing to have, right? It's just not something that should be, just, oops, sorry, this one here, just here, available for anyone that has access to this part to see. So probably you might want to, to make this a little bit better. So this is where we have something which is with Key Vault. Now let's just go and let's talk about Key Vault now for a moment. And having this integration that we can have with Key Vault. So let's go talk about Key Vault. So Key Vault is, in a very, very quick way, because we don't have that much time, but basically with Key Vault is a service that we can use to store three big types of data: secrets, encryption keys, and certificates, like for HTTPS, for example. When you do that, this is stored in a service that, depending on what kind of version of Key Vault you choose, but they can go to having even FIPS 140 level 2 and level 3, even if you have dedicated hardware, which is not the one that I'm showing here, but there's even that service now. But this one here is just a premium version of Azure Key Vault. So everything is encrypted using hardware security modules. And then you can define who is going to have access to those keys. And then of course, look, there is a SDK for this. There is REST calls that you can do to get access to those keys, those secrets. Or you can do something that is really, really awesome. You create the Key Vault. And I already have my Key Vault created, by the way. So let me then, use this here. So I already have my Key Vault here. Let's go to my Key Vault. Oh, better yet, sorry. Let's just leave this here. Let's open another tab. And let's just go here to Key Vaults. And then on my Key Vault that I have here, so if I go to secrets, I already have this API key demo. And as you can see, there are several versions, this is here. I can click here on the current version. This is the URL, to do the call and to get this. But what I can do is I can just copy this, go in here, And instead of having this like this, I can edit this bit here. And what I can do is this. I can put a reference to that stuff that I have in Key Vault. So Microsoft.evault secret URI equals to this bit here, and then do like this. What I'm doing here is with this part here, okay, what I'm putting is a reference to that value. And I do this, and this is supposed to get that key vault value from there. The problem is, how does this web app goes into my key vault and authenticates on this? Because, you know, it's not yet there. So what I have done here, as you can see, you know, just detects as a key vault, but he has a warning sign there. So what you can do with this is you need to create a system sign. This is a managed identity, basically. And when you create a managed identity for this, so it's creating, let's just wait for the creation to be finished. I can then go to the key vault and configure the authorization for this. We can start going there. So if I go to access configuration, this still uses, you know, a key vault. So I can create here, just say that, look, you need a get permission. That's the only permission that I need for secrets. And then I just need to search for that. And there you go, it's already here. So there you go. So now this is created. So now this here under configuration, it usually takes a while, but it should show a green sign next to that part instead of that informational I that we had, or the cross. But this will just take some time, okay, and it will be able to show this in here, okay. So let's just do one refresh to see if it works. If not works, can just check this later in the end, okay. But this is it. So what I have done is, you know, I just created that reference to the key vault. This is like awesome, and you can do this with a bunch of other services. And one of the best things on using, you know, Azure is this, you know, this integrations that, you know, that we have between services. It is really, you know, really cool stuff that we can do. Yeah, it's still red, but it will eventually show up. Just give it some time, okay? It usually takes like a minute or two to show up. Okay, cool. So what more can we do with app services? There's another thing that I love, which is let's go and let's create a custom domain for this. If we go on the overview blade and I browse, there you go. You see, this is the domain that I have, which is something.azurewebsites.net. Let's be honest, that's a little bit, you know, non-professional. You probably don't want to have something like this. So what I can do is go under custom domains and say, hey, I want a new custom domain on this. Oh my God, it's taking ages to load the UI today. Come on. There you go. I can add the custom domain and I can say, no, it's not an app service domain. Let's just do this. So I'll do this in the most easier way or a harder way. Let's just say espc.azcontoso.com. That's going to be the domain that I'm going to use. And he's going to say, hey, on that azcontoso.com DNS zone, you need to add those two registries. Okay, so let's just take care of that then. I own that domain, by the way. So I have it here. And if I go to my, oops, not this, sorry, azcontoso.com, I need to go to the DNS zone. I can add a record set. So ESPC, it's going to be a CNAME. I get back to this. I copy that bit and I put it there, okay? And then I'm going to add a second record, which is using this bit here. It's going to be a text record. Then I copy that bit, and you just put this in here, and you press OK. And there you go. So now that this is done, you can hit the validate button. It will show the status green, green. There you go. And then you add the domain in here, and the domain is going to be added. But now it's working, by the way. Okay, it's already working. But it's complaining about the status, the SSL TLS status, because I don't have a certificate for this. So I can click add binding, and I can solve this very quickly because in my case, you could create, by the way, a app service. This is free, and you can create it for free in here. But in my case, I already have an app service certificate, which is this azcontoso.com. And when I add this, so you see, it's really just, I already have it, so just click add. You can create those app service certificates, by the way. So app service certificate, okay? It's this service. You could just create one. It's green. So that means that if I try now to use this as a domain, I will just see the same website. And if you try this yourselves, you will see the same as I do in here. So that's pretty, that's pretty cool stuff that I have here. And look, this is just what I wanted to show you. There is so much more that we could show. I just want to show just a little bit here some other services. So we talked about Azure Active Directory, for authentication authorization. I even did that demo with the managed identity, and you saw that integration here. Services, functions, Keyvault, but there are plenty other more. Storage accounts, Redis cache. I love Redis cache, for caching requests, for caching data, and I'm usually using a pattern that you can find this pattern, because sometimes when people say, "Oh, caching, right? Oh, caching is just for that data that doesn't change all the time, right, Tiago?" Well, no. It can also be for any other kind of data. So if you go on learn.microsoft.com Azure architecture, okay, so if you go to this, and where is this? Under design patterns, you have a bunch of design patterns in here, and there is this one, cache aside, that I really invite you to check this one out, because it kind of talks about, as you can see here, that yeah, I have a cache, I have some data stored in here. If this changes, I can have some kind of compute here, monitoring that, and then making the right changes into the cache. This here could be done very easily, for example, using an Azure function. And I have this model, this exact same model, in several customers, and it really works like a charm. Then Cosmos DB and SQL databases. Well, probably you're going to need some kind of data store for relational data. SQL database is a great example. Non-SQL, well, Cosmos DB, it is the great service that we have in Azure for exactly for that. So just use them. And then front door. You need something to sit in the front, also to work with like stuff like CDN, and to sit in the front, to also probably imagine that you're going to deploy this into multiple geographies, so multiple regions. So front door will be the answer for that. And then in the end, look, you can easily build something like we have in here. So as we can see this, let me just put my laser point here. We just have front door or traffic manager. We can have CDN for some content, static content that we want to share via a content delivery network. We have an app service plan here, another one in another region, some function apps for some event-driven capabilities that we might need, some Redis cache, and then your polyglot solution when it comes to data, like relational data stays in the SQL database, other data stays in a Cosmos, in Cosmos DB. Then you can geo-replicate that data. And then, of course, we can use other services that this one I didn't cover, but it's awesome, by the way. Azure Search, you can just build like, for searching some content that you have on those two databases there. You can just, index all that content using Azure Search. So basically, this is it. So I hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Just kind of getting started on, how to maximize your productivity with Azure. So I really hope you enjoyed and happy to answer some questions if we have them.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tiago, for a great presentation and some great demos. So now we will get into the questions and answers part. So again, should you wish to ask a question, please do feel free to type it into the questions box now. So our first question here is, someone is asking, is Copilot free?
Unfortunately not. No, it's unfortunately GitHub Copilot is a paid service.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tiago. And just another comment then in from someone, they just wanted to say thank you and that your presentation was very insightful.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So, does anyone else have any more questions before we wrap it up? You can feel free to type them into the questions window now. We might just wait another minute or two just in case anyone has any more questions.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say sorry that I didn't have my camera on, but just had some hard time plugging my camera today. I don't know why. I always like to have that on, but sorry about that. Any more questions?
Okay.
No?
No, there doesn't seem to be any more
Okay.
questions, so we'll wrap it up there.
Okay, so
Brilliant.
yeah, it was a pleasure, Laura, and thanks for the invitation, by the way.
Oh, no problem. And thanks for taking the time today to come on here and carry out this webinar. We really, really appreciate it. Oh, sorry, I'm actually just after seeing another question coming in there at the last minute.
Mhm.
So someone is asking, is it possible to use Azure Key Vault storing a secret in another tenant?
It is. It used not to be possible that, okay? But it's one of the newest features. I think it was like a few months ago that they announced that it is possible, yes.
Brilliant. So that is all the questions we have today. So I'm just going to wrap it up there. So that is the end of today's webinar. You can find this webinar and more at sharepointeurope.com/resource center. That is it for today, folks. Thanks again to all of you for joining us today. Take care, and we hope that you'll join us again for more learning. Bye for now.
Yeah, bye-bye.